So what do they call you?
My nickname is Gordo. From I'm from Hemet, California. You know, Southern Cali. Just a little town right there.
What are you incarcerated for, sir, and how long is your sentence?
So I have a total of 20 years, and they sentenced me to involuntary manslaughter, and 8 counts of assault.
And do you or did you at any time point in your life belong to any type of gangs, groups, organizations, or anything like that?
Did I what? What was it?
At any time point in your life, were you associated with any type of gangs or sets or cliques or anything like that, sir?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind saying where you were from?
I'm from Hemet, I'm an active gang member. For starters, man, you know, I grew up dirt poor, man. You know, I grew up in a house. There was 20 of us to a 3-bedroom house. You know, so you can imagine how that was. You know,
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
we're struggling to just to find out what we're gonna, what we're gonna eat the next day. You know, so I kind of, established that mentality. You know, just trying to figure out, okay, so I got to make this happen. I got to make it happen. So I mean, you can imagine how growing up around, other like-minded individuals, because all my family, every single one of my family members is from my neighborhood. So it was always kind of like a dog-eat-dog world, So that's something that was ingrained in me from a very young age. So by the age of about, I would say, 13, I started, really affiliating myself with the gang members and really learning what everything was about. I idolized my father. Growing up, he was a gang member as well. So I would always see him with his homies. He would take pictures with like 20 different people. Every single one of them, bald-headed gang members throwing up the neighborhood. And that's just something that I look to as cool. That's just like, damn, all these fools are part of something that means something. And I wanted to be a part of that. And all the stories, everybody used to tell me, and all the media and all the movies, like American Me, Blood In, Blood Out, Menace to Society, all the music, fucking all that played a part in that. All that was cool. And on top of everything that I was going through, like the poverty and stuff, who doesn't want to be cool, And it just added to the influence that brought me into this lifestyle, into this fucking cycle of just destruction, And so by that point, my parents weren't together pretty much all the way up until that point. They separated when I was 2. So my mom was jumping around, boyfriend to boyfriend. My dad was over there with his girlfriend doing his own thing, and I would bounce around a lot. It was never a stable household. I fucking, right there in my neighborhood, there's 5 different elementary schools, and I went to every single one of them. So that was just something that was normal for me. I never set roots. I never settled down anywhere. So I think I think that played into the person I became as well, you know, because you you never really get to understand that, you know, the people around you. You never really get to truly have those deep relationships with people, you know. And so all I had was my mother and my siblings. So those ties just strengthened for everything that were all the family that I had that were closest to me, and everybody outside. It just like I don't know you, and I don't fuck with you, you know. And so that just ostracized me from the outside world even more, you know. And so that's another thing that played a part in my criminal thinking and my gang mentality. So all that ended up being to where I was about 13 years old, right? So I'm in middle school now, and so I'm kicking it with the homies, and I'm starting to start, you know, like the criminal lifestyle. You know, I'm starting to commit my first crime. You know, I started off with, you know, stealing little shit, you know, and then started fucking beating people up, you know, catching fools slipping, you know, and everybody, it was encouraged, you know. Oh yeah, you're fucking hard, fool, hell yeah, you know, fuck that fool up. And so you almost wanted to see who was willing to go the distance, who was willing to do the most, you know. And so not only that, but at this time, this is when my victim came into my life. My victim, he was my mom's boyfriend at the time. So my victim, he was also a gang member, right? So he played a big influence into why I ended up being a gang member as well. He used to beat my mom, you know, and I was the oldest, so I felt like I had to be the one to protect her. I'm the man of the house, you know, and so I'm getting my ass handed to me. I'm getting fucking beat down by a 30-year-old man, you know. So at that age, I felt like I have to prove something. I have to prove that I'm a man, you know. So from that point on, I lost my childhood, you know. I feel like I never really even had a childhood sometimes, you know. So every day, just worried about, you know, like what.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What is this fool gonna do? Is he gonna come home and trip? Is he gonna fucking, you know, hurt me or my siblings, you know? And how am I gonna deal with it? You know, and it made me feel like I was a bitch. Honestly, it made me feel like I wasn't shit when he would be right there beating my ass, and I would be looking up at him, and he'd have a smile on his face, and my mom would fucking always take him back. You know, and so I look for a brotherhood. I look for somebody I can depend on, because at that point I was confused. You know, and the homies were always there for me. The homies were always quick to answer my call. So at that point, I knew I wanted to be a gang member. I knew I wanted to be part of the hood. That's the hood that I wanted to be part of. Right? So I got jumped in at the age of 14. I got jumped in at the age of 14, and by that point, you know, I was already fucking waist deep in the bullshit, you know. And so my mom, she realized, you know, how far I had went with it, and she realized, you know, where I was going, where I would end up. So she sent me out to Colorado for a couple of years, So from 15 to, or like the first couple of months of my 17th year, I was over there in Colorado. And from that point, I seen what it was to to not be around gang members, and yeah, that shit tripped me out, and it was like a completely different world. Being out there, being just completely somewhere new, everybody was welcoming. It shit blew my mind, and I fell in love with that shit, because you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to fucking be worried about like, all right, these fools gonna catch me slipping. These fools gonna fucking come knocking at your door like, hey, you know where this fool at, right? But that was very short lived, So I only lived out there for 2 years. Really, what made me come back was my mom. I wanted her to see me graduate because I was about to graduate high school, and my mom's always been a big part of my life. And I love my mom till the day I die. So I came back. So yeah, absolutely. I forgot to mention fucking the first time I ever got shot at. I was 13 years old. And I think that's really when it hit home. That's the first time I ever got shot at, and it's something that's you hear the bullets fucking whizzing by. These fucking things are ricocheting off the wall next to you. That shit's it's either do or die at that point. So that was the very first time I got shot at. I got into plenty of scuffles, where knives were pulled out. Thank God I've never been hurt too bad, but I've had a couple of homies, fucking end up in ditches and just completely done wrong, and they're just never the same person, so absolutely that changes the mentality, man. That makes you think it do or die, It's either my life or his. And then of course the violence at home and all the domestic abuse, all the physical, the mental abuse, because
You have 60 seconds remaining.
my victim, he never took it light on me. I was fucking 13 years old getting beat down like a grown ass man by a fucking 30-year-old man. So real quick, it's about to hang up though. So would you call back or?
Yeah, call back, please.
All right. Yeah, back to when I was 17, right? So I had moved to Colorado for that 2 years, right? And I was 15 to 16 or 16 to 17, somewhere around there, right? So when I came back down, I wanted my mom to see me graduate. That's something that was a big landmark for me. It was almost my 18th birthday, so I wanted her to be proud of me. So that was the biggest mistake of my life, though, right? Because I was away from everything. I was away from all the negative, all the things that is associated with Southern Cali. The gang members, the violence, the drugs, just the poverty, everything. So coming back to the same neighborhood, people that recognized me, that knew me, started hitting me up again. They wanted me to be around, come around, go over with all the homies, kick it, hey, fool, what's up? You over there acting brand new. He thinks he's better than us, and it all played a part into my downfall. Right, so by the age of 17, I started doing drugs. I started doing crystal meth. Right, so I started getting high, getting tweaked out. I met that girl named Crystal, and it was a rap, man. The first time I got high was with one of my best friends, one of my road dogs. And he had told me that it was coke. And so he kind of played me. I got played into this addiction. And at the end of the day, I can't blame him. It's something that I accepted and that I chose to do. So I started getting high. I started kicking it with the homies again. All the homies, and by this point, we're all grown. So we ain't playing no games no more. We all doing grown man stuff. So this all ended up leading to where I was at mentally. And so I'm doing drugs. I'm looking over my shoulder. And so I'm in full panic mode. At this point, I'm already running into the cops. I've almost got caught up a couple of times. So keep in mind, though, I had been dealing with my victim, my mother's husband. At this point, they had gotten married when I was in Colorado.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I had been dealing with him for close to 7 years by this point. And so he had been coming in and out of prison. So that was another thing that had been a constant thing, him in and out of prison, besides my cousins and, all my other relatives. So when he got out this last time, he had this real big chip on his shoulder because he seen where I was at in my progression towards being a gang member and my lifestyle. And this person had always been a rival of mine. He'd always challenged me for my mother's attention. So the day of my crime, the night prior, I had slept over at my mother's house, and he accused me of doing something grimy, something way out, something out of pocket, and so we argued, and at that point I was done fighting him. I was done just going blow for blow for him. And so it had escalated to the point where it was either going to be me or it was going to be him. So I didn't want to do that to my siblings. I did not want to do that to my mother. So I left. And I had to make a decision, and I told my mother, it broke my heart. It still breaks my heart to this day. But I told my mother, like, hey, I love you to death, but being around you, I'm going to do something to this person that I cannot take back. And come, 2-3 hours later, I'm drinking with my homeboys, and I get a text. It's about 7:00 in the afternoon, and I get a text from my sister, and she's panicking. She's like, I can hear the panic in her text, and she's telling me, hey, mom's getting beat up, mom's getting fucked up, he putting hands on my mom again. Louis was his name. Louis putting hands on my mom. Come help, please come help. And so I booked it. And that's never been something that I've ever experienced before, but I was not going to allow that to happen. That's my sister, and never will I not answer her call for help. And so I was all the way across town. I was about half an hour away from where my mother lived and where I was at. I was actually at Frank's Liquor. And for those who know, and so I ran all the way across town, and this whole time my sister's texting me, blowing me up. Hey, where you at? Please come help. Where are you? So this is putting me in a fight or flight mentality. Like, this is gonna happen. And at that point, honestly, I think I knew in my soul that I was gonna take a life that night. So I was on drugs, I was drunk, and I was under the influence. And so coming into the neighborhood where I was living at, I turned the corner and I see my victim. He's up on the stairs with my mother, and he's kind of like nonchalant about everything, and so I walk up, and I kind of just blacked out from that point, and so after everything happened, I see my mom, and she's panicking. She's like looking at me with fear, After everything happened, all I remember was looking at my mom in her eyes and seeing fear, she's scared of me. Like, what am I gonna do? She's thinking that I'm gonna hurt her, and so that just makes me broke my heart, that broke my heart from that point on, and so I had to leave, so I left, and I went to I ran away, I got away for the night, I went to the homie's house, just down the street, and I got picked up the next day. It wasn't something too crazy. I wasn't on the run for months on end. I got picked up the next day. So I was with my father. And we had been discussing it because he kind of had an idea of what happened. Because everybody had been telling me up to that point.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
It's not worth it. This is not worth your life. This is not worth you going to prison for. And it's always something that I always had in the back of my mind. But at that point, that's all I was thinking about. Like, fuck, damn, I'm about to go to prison. I gotta leave. And so the first person I called was at the time, the love of my life. I was talking to some female, and I actually met her out in Colorado, and so I had fallen in love with her, and me and her have been on and off for a long time, right? So that was actually the first person I called, but after that, I tried to go up to my house that I was living, which was my dad at the time, and that's when I got picked up. So when I was in the station, they started questioning us or whatever. It was me and four of my homies, my stepmom, and my mother, right? Because she was, of course, at the crime scene, she didn't leave. And at that point, I didn't know anything. I didn't know if he had passed away. All I knew was that, I had hurt him really bad, right? And so they pulled me into the interview room, and the first thing he told me was, "Your Louis, he's dead." And my heart started racing, because at that point I knew like, okay, I'm probably gonna do a life term. I'm probably never gonna come out again, because a lot of my homies had been washed up by that point, right? So he manipulated me in a way into giving him what he wanted, right? Because my mom was there, it was they couldn't exactly put me at the crime scene, so he pretty much just told me, like, if you don't confess, and we're gonna jam your mom up with a murder charge. She's gonna go for a long time. So me being the mama's boy, the writer for my mom that I am, I told him everything that happened. It's only right, I'll do anything for my mom, and that just goes to show, So I told him everything that happened, and thank God I only got to 20 years that I did, but being, seeing that fear in in my mother's eyes and everything that happened, changed me. That's something that I fear becoming again. That's something that pushes me to this day to become a better person. And it's hard to say that from in here, because everybody could say that they're never going to become a vet, or they didn't deserve what they got, they didn't deserve this and that. But I'm gonna do it for the people that I love.
So you mean to tell me, Alonzo, that your mom seen you stab him?
Yes, she did.
Man, I can
She
only
witnessed.
imagine how that's affected her till this very day.
Yes. Her and my sisters, they seen everything happen, and it's something that I regret to this day. It's something that's deep, and I know I hurt my family. I know I hurt them, scarred them deeply.
How old were your sisters?
At the time, I was 18 or 19, so my sister was 13. Yeah, she was 13. My oldest sister, and from then on, I had another three sisters. The other was 7. One of them was 6, and the baby was 2.
Have you noticed them going through? Have you noticed them going through any type of psychological issues, or having to go through counseling, or anything like that, or they're just different because of this?
Yeah, yeah. All of them go to counseling. My older sister, she has like panic attacks. She thinks about everything that happened, and she like just breaks down crying. My same thing like my mom. She thinks about everything. She breaks down crying. So they all have to go to counseling and grief management. Because if you think about it, she not only lost her husband that day, she lost her son too. So it affected them in so many ways. And my sisters, we don't all have the same father, but the baby, she does. That was her father. So I know I'm gonna have to answer to her eventually.
How many times did you strike him with the knife?
I don't remember, right? But when I got the report, they told me that I had sliced him 8 times.
Yeah, man, wow. Yeah, poor people, man. I can only imagine how it's affected them seriously, man. How often do you think about this? How has this affected you?
Honestly, I still kind of struggle, and I struggle with coming to terms with what I did. Not on the fact of necessarily of what I did, but everything that happened because of it. Like my mom. Because I hold my family to such a high esteem, and for me to hurt them in the way I did, and I know I was wrong for it. I know that nobody deserves to die. I know that. But I didn't know what to do, and it all led to a bad situation to becoming worse. And so I I'm trying to make amends. I still talk to my mother. I still talk to all my siblings. Thank God. But I fear the day that I have to sit in front of my sister and tell her why I took her father's life.
It almost seems, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like there's still some type of resentment, like there's still some type of hatred lingering for the victim, for this individual. Is that a fact? Is that true?
Yes, yeah, there is. Yeah, everything that he did to me, he did to my siblings, and I know I'm wrong for that too. I know I should have more sympathy for my victim, but it just built up over time, and I had never knew a way of letting that out, you know. As a man in our culture, my dad never told me how to do things. I had to figure this stuff out for myself, So he never told me, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. This is how you talk to a girl. We've never even had the birds and the bees talk, so to speak. So this is something that I had to stumble through and figure out.
Did you honestly get some sort of satisfaction having carried out this, this heinous act?
I did. I did because I know that my mom will never have to deal with that person again. I did because now he can't hurt anybody else. Now he can't hurt me. And that, I guess I proved myself, and that might sound messed up, but it almost felt like a battle of two beasts clashing, and it was just me and him.
And ultimately, you feel like you won.
And yeah, I know I'm gonna have to see him again, because I believe in reincarnation. I believe in answering for everything that you did in this life. So I believe that I will meet him again.
Do you think about him?
I think of what he could have been. I think of everything that may have happened, the father he could have been, the husband he could have been to my mother, but other than that,
Do you feel alone now?
that's a deep one right there, man. Yeah. I feel alone a lot. I do. And I don't know if it's just the environment. I don't know if it's just me putting things in my own head, me telling myself that I'm alone when I'm not. Because I have my family, but sometimes I just feel different, and I feel like the things I did puts me in a position to where I could never, be forgiven for taking this person's life.
But you ended up getting 20 years. You ended up getting convicted of manslaughter. It's it's not a murder charge, so you will be free Do you feel you deserve to be free?
I believe so. Because, yes, I took this person's life. Yes, I did. But not only was I on drugs, not only was I under the influence, I was a scared, young man. You know, I had been dealing with this person for close to 7 years, and it just developed into something that it was always a panic, and like I said, I know I did what I did was wrong. I know he didn't deserve to die, but in my in the way that I was raised, what I did was protect my family, because the way things were going, the way everything was leading up, I'm almost positive either it was going to be me that was buried or my mother. So that doesn't justify what I did. No, by no means does that justify what I did. But I believe I'm on the road to redemption. I believe that I'm changing, and I've come so far. And yes, you've seen that I do have resentment still. But that's something I'm working on to this day. I've planned my not necessarily planned, but I've thought about how I'm gonna tell his kids, everything that happened and what had happened. And I'm not gonna make their father out to be a demon. I'm not gonna make them out to be,
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I'm not gonna make them look at their father a certain way, or make them see things from my perspective. Because at the end of the day, that little boy, if that happened to me, I'd feel very strongly about it as well. So
You
I
have
know the
visualized these
consequences.
conversations in your mind over and over again, I'm sure. You have visualized these conversations in your mind over and over again, I can imagine, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, so
Advice for anybody out there who is perhaps living a similar lifestyle as you, who went down that path, who started kicking with the homies, and it's just on the verge, man, of making a life-altering decision, man. Do you have any advice for anybody out there?
yeah, I would just say, it's express yourself. Talk to your family. Look for somebody that you can trust. And I'm not talking about the homies. I'm not talking about everybody that you do all the bad things with. No, look for somebody that you can truly depend on, that you could truly talk to, and really be yourself. And express yourself, express your feelings, express everything that you're going through. Because that will be such a
You have 60 seconds remaining.
that'd be such a burden off your own shoulders, and that's something that somebody else can understand what you're going through, and you could be seen. It's not worth your life. It's not worth coming down this path, and it's not worth all the pain and all the struggle and all the hurt and all the unhappiness that comes along with this lifestyle.
I want to go ahead and say thank you, man. Thank you for allowing me to be able to share your story and asking you these questions. I hope I can have you on as a guest one more time, man, because there's so many more questions that would like to ask you about the prison lifestyle and what your experience has been like inside. But with that being said, man, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you one more